Protesters took to the streets in Washington, D.C. to oppose U.S. intervention in Venezuela on Saturday, March 16th. The Washington, D.C. protest had several thousand participants who first rallied in front of the White House. Max Blumenthal, who recently returned from a fact-finding trip to Venezuela, also spoke.
And what we showed at the Gray Zone, along with brave Venezuelan reporters, including our friends from Telesur, is the lie. It's the lie that they tried to deploy to escalate a conflict and spark an intervention. And what we also saw walking through the barrios, like 23 Enero, like walking through Comuna Panal, walking through the communities of Caracas, was the conscience of the Venezuelan people who are mobilizing on a popular level against this coup. It's because of them and because of their conscience that this coup has failed. It's not because of some dictator in his Batcave with some computers. It's because of the conscience of the Venezuelan people that they stood up during an electrical blackout that was designed to destabilize their society, and they pulled together, and they helped each other find water, and they helped each other charge their phones, and they came together as a community to stand up against the most powerful empire in history and the worst economic war we've seen directed against another country, and they have emerged victorious. Our role here is to be the conscience of our own society. When some of our socialist politicians are not standing up and saying very clearly, hands off Venezuela, and they're kind of playing both sides, it's our role to be that conscience. It's our role and our responsibility to protect the Venezuelan people when sociopaths in the White House are calling for a war under the auspices of responsibility to protect.
Prominent speakers such as Vietnam-era whistleblower Daniel Ellsberg and Green Party presidential candidate Jill Stein addressed the crowd via Skype.
Thank you all very much for being here. It really warms my heart to see that so many Americans are willing to stand up against American imperialism. I was a servant empire for a while in Vietnam and elsewhere before I came to realize it for what it was. But for most of the period since Vietnam, we've been what I would call a covert empire. Covert really means not just secret. It means you denial, a policy of plausible denial, where you have cover stories to mislead people. That's what's really going on. Specifically, we're a covert empire in the sense that we deny that we are an empire, that we actually decide who rules another country and take steps as to who lives and who dies in that country, who's the police, who governs them. We deny that in Central America, in Indonesia, Middle East, and around the world. When it comes to clandestine operations, I would say that I would have really very little doubt, though I can't say I'm certain, but I would say the odds very much favor the claims of the government at this time, which is not a government that can be relied on in every case. I'm sure that Maduro lies like every other government official in the world. You have to judge for yourself the circumstances and other sources of information. In this particular case, when he charged sabotage or clandestine activity to cyber war, probably, to bring down the Venezuelan government, I have to say the circumstantial evidence in this case is very, very, very strong.
We know also that this is a Koch brothers war in the making, because who is it that has been the big sponsor of Mike Pompeo and Mike Pence? They're basically owned by the Koch brothers, and so is little Marco Rubio. And these are the guys who are really pushing for regime change. Why do the Koch brothers want regime change? Because they need Venezuelan oil. They need the particular type of very crude oil, which you can only get in Venezuela and a few other places. So this is a war for oil if there ever was one. One last thing I want to say, sanctions is war. Sanctions is regime change. And we have to say no to sanctions in the same way that we have to say no to war. They're absolutely deadly.
One of the organizers of the protest, Eugene Perrier, explained his support for the protest as follows.
Well, I think this protest is critically important because the actions that the Trump administration is taking, they're being done in our name. They say we're doing this on behalf of the American people. This is for the American way. We support democracy and so on and so forth. But, I mean, that's rank hypocrisy. We certainly know that the Trump administration and, quite frankly, most other administrations support all the most anti-democratic regimes around the world as long as they toe the line of the U.S. government. So we wanted to be here today to say that, no, not in our name. No war, no sanctions, no coup. It's wrong for the United States to strangle the country with sanctions. It's wrong for them to promote this coup with a completely unrepresentative process here. And we think that based on what we've seen in Iraq and Libya and other countries, it could potentially lead to another regime change war. And we've seen how disastrous those have been. In fact, it's the U.S. interventions that actually make the humanitarian situation 10, 100 times worse than what it was before, whatever you may say about Gaddafi or Saddam or whoever it may be.
A Venezuelan-born activist was one of the many speakers that addressed the crowd.
In 1989, working-class Venezuelans went out to protest to what was called El Caracazo against the neoliberal policies that led to increasing gas prices and bus fares. Today, we see the elites attempting to re-establish the same oppressive system of domination and exploitation that gave rise to the Venezuelan Revolution. One that has fought for over 20 years, even through the conditions of crippling sanctions and economic war since the Obama administration, the people continue to build and organize.
Greg Wilpert for the Real News Network.